Birthdays are meant to be joyful celebrations, filled with laughter, cake, and the company of loved ones. But sometimes, things can take a chilling turn, leaving an unforgettable mark on what should have been a happy occasion. These two true birthday horror stories involve events that still send shivers down the spines of those who experienced them. So, dim the lights, settle in, and prepare for two tales of terror that took place on what were supposed to be ordinary birthdays. Story 1. The Gift That Came Back. It was the summer of 1998, and Laura was about to turn 13. The excitement of becoming a teenager filled her with anticipation. Her family had planned a small birthday party at their home, inviting her close friends for an afternoon of cake, games, and presents. Everything seemed perfect. On the day of her birthday, Laura's Aunt Margaret, who lived in a neighboring town, arrived a bit later than everyone else. She had a reputation for giving unique, often unusual gifts, and this year was no exception. Wrapped in delicate tissue paper and tied with a dark red ribbon, Margaret handed Laura her gift, a small, intricately carved wooden box. "Open it later, when you're alone," Margaret whispered mysteriously, winking at her niece. The party went off without a hitch. Laura's friends sang happy birthday, they ate cake, and the usual chatter filled the room. Later that evening, after everyone had left and Laura was preparing for bed, she remembered her aunt's unusual gift. Curious, she grabbed the box and sat down on her bed. She unwrapped it, admiring the craftsmanship. The box felt strangely cold, and there were symbols carved into it, symbols she couldn't quite understand. When she lifted the lid, she was surprised to find nothing inside, just the hollow interior of the box. Disappointed, Laura placed it on her nightstand and forgot about it. That night, however, would be the beginning of a series of terrifying events. Laura was awakened in the middle of the night by soft tapping sounds. Groggy, she turned to look at her window, but it was shut. The sound seemed to be coming from the wooden box. She stared at it, confused. As she listened, the tapping grew louder, now accompanied by a faint whispering. Laura bolted out of bed and ran to her parents' room, terrified but unable to explain what she had heard. Her father reassured her that it was just a dream and led her back to her room. The box sat innocuously on the nightstand, unmoving, but Laura refused to sleep near it. She moved the box to the attic and tried to put it out of her mind. For weeks after that night, strange things began happening around the house. Objects would move on their own, small things, like her school books shifting to different places or lights flickering at random times. Laura couldn't shake the feeling that the box was somehow responsible. Every time she was in the house, it felt like she was being watched. One evening, as Laura was doing her homework, she heard a loud thud from the attic. The same cold feeling crept up her spine. Mustering up her courage, she grabbed a flashlight and climbed up the stairs. As she pushed open the attic door, her blood ran cold. The wooden box was sitting in the middle of the floor, despite her having placed it in a far corner weeks ago. The air around the box felt icy, and as Laura stared at it, the tapping and whispering began again, louder than ever. She backed away slowly, refusing to get closer. That night, Laura's parents called a family friend who was a priest. He came the next day to bless the house, and they buried the box in a field far from their home. From that day on, the strange occurrences stopped, but Laura never forgot the gift from her aunt. Years later, she learned from her Aunt Margaret that the box had been an antique she found in an old shop known for selling cursed items. Margaret had thought it would be a fun, mysterious gift. Needless to say, it was a gift Laura wished she had never received. Story 2. The Clown at the Window. Ben had always had a fascination with clowns. As a young boy, he loved going to circuses, collecting clown figurines, and dressing up as one for Halloween. So when his 10th birthday rolled around, his parents decided to throw him a circus-themed party, complete with games, balloons, and a clown performer. The party was held at their home, and Ben was beyond excited. The backyard was transformed into a circus wonderland, And the highlight of the day was the arrival of the clown, Giggles, hired to entertain the children with magic tricks and balloon animals. Giggles was a tall man with a painted face, big shoes, and a brightly colored suit. His laughter echoed through the yard as he performed for the kids, who squealed with delight. But as the day wore on, Ben noticed something odd about the clown. Giggles seemed to be watching him a little too closely, lingering after each trick and making direct eye contact in an unsettling way. Whenever Ben looked at him, it felt as though the clown's smile was too wide, almost sinister beneath the makeup. As the sun began to set and the party wrapped up, Giggles bid everyone farewell and left. The day had been a success, but that night would prove to be anything but ordinary. Later that evening, as Ben was getting ready for bed, he glanced out of his bedroom window. To his shock, he saw Giggles standing in the backyard, illuminated by the faint glow of the streetlights. The clown was just standing there, staring up at Ben's window. Ben rubbed his eyes, thinking he must be seeing things. When he looked again, Giggles was gone. He told his parents what he had seen, but they brushed it off as an overactive imagination, especially after a day filled with circus excitement. Still uneasy, Ben tried to sleep. Around midnight, Ben woke up to the sound of soft tapping on his window. His heart raced as he sat up, fear gripping him. The tapping grew louder, and this time, when he looked out, Giggles was there again. But now he was closer, standing just outside the window, his painted face pressed against the glass. His eyes, wide and unblinking, stared directly at Ben. Terrified, Ben screamed for his parents, who rushed into the room. By the time they arrived, the clown was gone. His parents checked the backyard, but found no trace of anyone. They reassured Ben that no one had been there and suggested he had a nightmare. But the next night, the clown returned. This time, Ben was prepared. As soon as he saw the painted face in the window, he grabbed a flashlight from his bedside table and shone it on the figure. The light revealed Giggles, his face grotesquely distorted in the beam, standing motionless with his hand raised as if to knock on the window again. His parents, once again, searched the yard, but found nothing. Growing increasingly worried, they called the police. An officer came by and patrolled the area, but found no sign of an intruder. Days went by, and the visits stopped, but Ben never felt safe again in his own room. A few weeks later, his parents received a phone call from the entertainment company that had hired Giggles. They were calling to apologize for canceling all bookings, as the man who had played Giggles had died in a car accident just days before Ben's birthday. Ben froze upon hearing this. If Giggles had died before the party, who or what had been standing at his window those nights? These two chilling birthday tales remind us that even the happiest of occasions can take a terrifying turn. From a cursed gift to a ghostly clown, these stories are a haunting reminder that the unexpected can happen when we least expect it. Whether you're celebrating with cake and candles or something more unusual, remember sometimes, it's not just your guests that show up to the party.